his policy towards Russia and Iran shows the exact same deficiencies that the tariff policies show, which
Yeah.
is that it's hugely contradictory
Mhm.
and has no actual plan of success that anybody can think about except for being belligerent and using his power.
Let's start with this news coming out of Florida. Your governor seems to be in a lot of hot water. He and his wife, who is a yeah.
Whoa. He's not my governor. He's the governor of Florida. Okay.
That's very fair. That's very fair. I apologize.
mean,
You're right. I stand corrected, Grant. When I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So this story comes out the other day, and I want you to fill us in to the people on how serious this is. We're talking about somewhere around $10 million, right? That Ron DeSantis said was given as a gift to his wife. And then it turns out there's actual documents to the contrary that show that he's lying. Tell me about this.
Oh, so it's such a comeuppance for Florida's very, very martinet of a governor. He's a real jerk. I mean, let's just be real here. We've seen him do his jerk thing all over the place. And as someone who's covered Ron for a long time, his wife has always been like the power behind the throne. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
She's much more articulate than he is. So it just tells you something, like she's a political wife. She is really the one that's, pulling the strings over there. He's obviously the face man. But yeah, so Ron DeSantis overplayed his hands with the state Republicans for years and years and years. They're fed up with him and they've been clashing. Last year, he cut, using the governor's veto, he cut budgets all over the state, including from Republican heavy districts, Republican legislator elected districts. So he sparked a war. And then on top of that, Ron DeSantis went to war with popular opinion. And he won the battle, right? But this is just the next leg of that. And that happened last year during the election when Florida voted on 2 amendments. One which would have legalized recreational cannabis, and the other which would have enshrined abortion rights into the state constitution. And so Ron DeSantis used state money in both of those referendum campaigns. It's totally illegal. I mean, we're talking about pure government propaganda. But like nothing stops the Republican Party today. They've just decided that ethics, laws, rules, regulations, all of it doesn't matter. It's all about power. If you can spend a dollar, just do it.
And Grant, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't DeSantis asked about this literally in the last month? And he lied, right? He said that it was a gift, right, Grant?
Well, the thing is, so, Medicaid had a settlement with the state. Like Medicaid owed the state of Florida money. And so they chipped off a huge chunk of this to a charity called Hope Florida, which Casey DeSantis was put in charge of. And then, Ron DeSantis himself lied and said that money was not put into these referendum campaigns, when in fact it was. They spent millions of dollars on political electioneering from Medicaid money, money. I mean, this is the largest public funds scandal since the Mississippi scandal. Okay. I mean, we're talking like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where the governor and Brett Favre diverted money from the TANF plan,
Brett
which is
Favre
like
denied it. Brett Favre knew exactly what it is. He's a Trump scumbag. We all know that. Brett Favre is a woman abuser. We know that as well. So I remember that completely. So I guess my question to you now, are there legal ramifications here? This will probably be the end of Ron DeSantis's political career. His wife isn't going to be running. If she does, she'll get destroyed. But are there? Yeah.
Let's talk about this for a second. Ron DeSantis was already a lame duck, but I think it's safe to say that outside of the aftermath of this scandal, his political career is dead.
Yeah.
Dead. Just dead.
Same thing with his wife.
His wife is in a lot of trouble. I think she's in more trouble than he is, because the First Lady of Florida has no CRISA or roof or legal protections, right? Whereas the governor can try to hide behind the First Amendment and, say, oh, this is just a mistake. And, there's a lot of bad law that permits bad behavior, but she's essentially a private citizen. So
Right.
this could be actually become like a criminal entanglement for her.
That was my question, and that was my next question. I think we all agree that this is probably the end of their political careers, but at the same time, what about legal ramifications? You alluded to that
So
maybe it'll be
look,
more.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
mean, he could be prosecuted. There's federal
Mhm.
prosecutors out there. He's not going to be prosecuted by the attorney general who's caught up in the same scheme. The state of Florida does not have recall of its statewide elected officials, a huge oversight.
Yep.
And so the only other remedy is impeachment. And now think about this. There's a governor's race coming up in only 18 months from now,
Mhm.
about 18 months, 17 months. But still, that doesn't mean they wouldn't impeach him. And that creates another interesting situation. If he and the attorney general, who was his former general counsel that he appointed to chief of staff and then appointed to attorney general, a man named James Uthmeyer, if he and Uthmeyer were both impeached and removed together, Florida has a very interesting line of succession, and I'm going to go through it real briefly. There's 5 people in the official line of succession. So the governor, obviously, is the governor. Behind him is the lieutenant governor. Then you have the attorney general. Then the chief financial officer of Florida, the CFO, and then you have the agriculture commissioner. Right. Right now, the 5 people in those roles are obviously Ron DeSantis. The lieutenant governor, he got rid of her by getting her a job at Florida International University as the president. This is something that the state legislature is looking to stop because, DeSantis has been handing out positions at our top universities like sinecures. And, these are unqualified people going in and destroying our state university system, which used to be highly respected. New College
Right.
being another example. So James Uthmeyer is the third in line. So if he's removed, obviously he's out. The CFO is used to be Jimmy Patronis, but he ran for Matt Gaetz' seat in Congress and just got elected. So he is out. And that leaves the agriculture commissioner, the fourth person in the line of succession, a man named Wilton Simpson, who happens to be like, pretty much a hero to all of these Republicans who hate Ron DeSantis,
Right.
former legislator,
There are quite a
center of
few.
the state.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there are
no.
quite a few. Yeah.
DeSantis, it's not just about the anti-MAGA. He's
Yeah.
pissed off the MAGA wing, and he also pissed off like Florida's old boy Republican wing of the
So
party.
with that said, Grant, we agree, on the end of maybe his political career and his wife, which hasn't really even started yet.
He may not be impeached and removed,
Yeah.
but he's certainly lame duck forever.
Absolutely. So we agree there, and his wife's aspirations of one day maybe being the governor.
Dying a horrible death.
Exactly. We've talked about possible legal ramifications. Now let's talk about the people that are most happy that are Republicans. I would say number one on that list is J.D. Vance. We all know he's the front runner, probably to run on the right in 2028, at least right now. A lot of things could change from then to now, and we hear these nonsense about Donald Trump running a third term, which I don't think is going to happen, but he probably doesn't want to leave the White House. But I think J.D. Vance is a very happy man after hearing this story.
Yes, but not nearly as happy as Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds is the happiest man because he is the one who is running, and he's the one who, thought he was going to have to duke it out with Casey DeSantis, and instead is looking at a much more clear path as Trump's appointed one.
Right.
Despite his flop of a town hall in Lee County where he told the audience, "Don't boo." That always works, right? Please clap, don't boo. Florida Republicans are really...
Yeah, he said the former drug dealer said don't boo, and he also lied about Joe Biden when it came to Social Security and full of lies. He's just not very good at public speaking. He's very good at spinning on Fox News and CNN. But again, the former drug dealer and wire fraud scammer benefited off of Democrat policies that did not put him behind bars, and then he votes against those same policies. He's a two-faced phony. And but then again, who is going to be running against him? Who is
Brian? Look, he wasn't convicted of having sex with underage minor boys.
Yeah, that's true.
He's on brand for the Republican Party.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Grant, before I let you go, and by the way, if you're just joining us, Grant Stern with the Occupy Democrats Network. He's out there in Miami, Florida, talking about Ron DeSantis' political career over, he and his wife. I'm going to be talking about this right after this interview with you, and I'm going to getting into more detail, but I want to get your thoughts on Donald Trump saying to Vladimir Putin on Truth Social, stop it, cut it out. It's almost like a teenager tickling another teenager. Hey, stop it, cut it out. That's Donald Trump's tone. And then he held a press conference this morning with no plan except stop it, Vladimir, cut it out. He said this war was going to be over in 24 hours. President Xi won't even take a call from him. And he's, again, blaming Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Pete Buttigieg for all of his problems in the deep state. What do you make of Donald Trump going on Truth Social last night after another strike and more innocent people losing their lives in Ukraine, and Donald Trump saying, hey, Vladdy, cut it out, stop it?
You know, I just think there's only one thing that really people should take away from this, which is exactly how informal and familiar he is with Vladimir Putin. I mean, we all call him Putin or Vladimir Putin or the Russian president or President Putin or something like that. And he just calls him Vladimir. I mean, you know, the only thing that surprised me is that he didn't say it in his native tongue and say, Vova, what are you doing? That's his nickname in Russian. But it's like, who else does he call by his first name that's a world leader? Only Vladdy Daddy. I mean, this is pathetic. It's exactly what he promised. He, said that Vladimir Putin was a genius for invading Ukraine.
He did.
I mean, this is a man whose biases run deeper than the Grand Canyon, and they're not as useful to the American people. I mean, this is like, again, it's cutting the throat of the American consumer for his friends, and there's no plan behind it either. There's no thought behind it because he doesn't care, right? But what happens if Vladimir Putin is allowed to control Ukraine, right?
The world is
the
trouble.
Price of oil,
the
price of gas, these things, run through Ukraine to a degree. But even more importantly, cooking oil and wheat, the world market for cooking oil and for wheat runs through Ukraine. In other words, if he's allowed to slowly debilitate the Ukrainian state and take it over one section every 10 years, right? Eventually, and people are like, oh, Putin's not going to live that long, but who knows? They said that about Castro, and Castro lasted forever.
Very true.
The bastards usually do, right?
You're right.
And so it's like, eventually over time, this is going to hurt American consumers in such a ridiculous way. They don't think about the price of cooking oil and wheat. But if that goes up by 20, 30% because Russia has a stranglehold on it and creates a premium, everybody pays. And that's what happened when Joe Biden was in office, when the invasion happened, right? Mm-hmm. Prices spiked. I mean, obviously there's some things that can be done to mitigate this, and they're being done right now. And prices did go back down. But giving Vladimir Putin, hard to tell the difference between the two these days.
Just stop.
Giving Vladimir Putin a huge chunk of Ukraine, right, just means that he's going to come back for more later.
Yeah.
Just stop. It's an eventuality.
Yeah, just stop it. I mean, that was Donald Trump's grand scheme all along. That's his secret weapon. Hey, Vladdy, just stop it.
Come on,
he's
man.
really, really tough on Russia. Yeah, and by the way,
the whole thing is that Donald Trump's his policy towards Russia and Iran shows the exact same deficiencies that the tariff policies show, which is that it's hugely contradictory and has no actual plan of success that anybody can think about except for being belligerent and using his power.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Think about it. Iran is the number one weapons supplier of Russia. So you're tough on Iran, but nice to Russia? Mm-hmm. Why?
Yeah,
they're aligned. They're best buddies. You want to start a war with Iran?
Yeah, well, because
you think peace with Russia is a good idea? Well, wait a second.
He's been Putin's puppet for a long time. We know that, Grant. Listen, I love what you do, man, over at the Occupy Democrats Network. Great Substack. You're a great journalist, and it's always good to get your perspective. Tell your friend Ron DeSantis I said hello, okay?
Okay, I'll tell your friend Ron DeSantis that Brian Shapiro says hello.
Tell him I
Deal.
love those white boots when he's in jail. Make sure to wear them. That's what I'll tell him. Maybe I'll send that message myself. Grant, you are the best, my friend. I love what you guys do over there. Keep up the great work, and we will catch up with you very soon. Okay, my friend?
Thanks for having me on, Brian. Good
Thanks,
to see
Grant.
you.
You're the best. Grant Stern, great journalist, by the way, out there in Miami, Florida with the Occupy Democrats Network. Grant's a good dude. He does a really good job.